All right, everybody, for the 25th episode, we got something truly beautiful. We got something classic, and I hope everybody enjoys it. Let's go. All right, everybody, was it a TV show? Was it a movie? It was a series. We're looking back at 1978's legendary Battlestar Galactica. Yes, it spawned one of the greatest reboots in history, the Battlestar Galactica that the Sci-Fi Channel put out years later. But today we are looking back at the original Battlestar Galactica, the legendary Battlestar Galactica, the one that kicked it all into play. Let's go to the trailer, as always. We are now going to look back at the creator, which is much more important in this situation because with TV series, TV show, whatever, you have a lot of directors moving in and moving out. But this show was created by Glen Larson. Glen Larson created a whole bunch of great television shows in the 70s and 80s. I mean, he was kicking out stuff like Battlestar Galactica, Knight Rider. He did Buck Rogers in the 25th Century. Hardy Boys, Nancy Drew Mysteries, BJ and the Bear, The Fall Guy with Lee Majors, which was ridiculous but awesome all at the same time. Glen A. Larson had an incredible career, brought us some incredible TV shows, and man, you just see his name at the beginning of a show and you're like, I'm going to like this. I know it's going to be ridiculous, I know it's going to be over the top, and a lot of them were sci-fi, but Glen Larson, come on man, he was legendary in the TV field. Let's go. Alright everybody, playing Commander Adama himself was the legendary Lorne Greene. Lorne Greene was one of those guys that had a huge career on television. He will always be, probably more than Commander Adama, he will always be remembered as being Ben Cartwright on Bonanza, one of the all-time legendary TV series ever. He will always be Ben Cartwright to many of us. But he was also on a lot of other television shows back in the day. He was on stuff like Studio One in Hollywood, Encounter, Sailor of Fortune, The Third Man, Wagon Train he popped up, Bronco, Mike Hammer. He was one of those guys that he just had a huge career. Yeah, yes, he came back for Battlestar 1980, but we're going to forgive him for that. It's Lorne Greene, it's Ben Cartwright, it's Commander Adama. What more do you need to say? Okay, let's keep going. Okay, playing Commander Adama's son, Captain Apollo, was Richard Hatch. Richard Hatch had a crazy good career in TV too. I mean, he never went to the top levels, and we will always remember him as Captain Apollo on Battlestar Galactica. But he was also on things like Dynasty. He was also on things like The Love Boat. He was also on a TV show called Hotel, and he was had a recurring role on another one called Throb. So he was in and out of TV a lot over his career, but then he came back to be on the legendary Battlestar Galactica reboot, playing a baddie of all things. And Battlestar Galactica and Richard Hatch will be joined at the hip. He was attached to the project. He loved the project. He cared about the project so much from its early days to the reboot. He was always championing it. Richard Hatch, Battlestar Galactica, joined at the hip. What more can you say? Oh, by the way, rest in peace, Richard Hatch. Rest in peace. Okay, playing Lieutenant Starbuck is Dirk Benedict. He popped up on TV shows like Charlie's Angels and Chopper One, and he was in the legendary movie But let's face it, Dirk Benedict is always going to be two people, man. He's always going to be Lieutenant Starbuck, and he's always going to be face from the A-Team. No matter what, no matter how many things he started, no matter what he did, he's always going to be those two guys. So when you think of Dirk Benedict, you're going to think Battlestar Galactica, you're going to think the A-Team. And hey, isn't that enough for anybody? Okay, playing ultimate baddie Count Baltar was John Colicos. Now, he had a huge career on television, man. There's no other way to look at it. This guy was in stuff dating way back, beyond the fact that he was in another great movie, not the lead, but he was in a great movie called The Changeling with George C. Scott back in the day. He was on tons and tons of TV shows. He was in stuff like Gunsmoke, Police Surgeon, The Lives of Benjamin Franklin, Mannix, Starlost, Longstreet, the FBI. He had a huge career, folks. He was around for a long time, and he relished playing the ultimate baddie. This show was not like the Baltar you've seen, where he was kind of like the overambitious, goofy, but duped and didn't mean to hurt mankind, human. This one, Baltar was truly evil, and he meant to bring mankind down. And John Colicos plays it with a thrilling fervor, like he was really just evil for the sake of being evil. So, John Colicos, great job, brother. Let's keep going. Okay, playing Boomer was Herbert Jefferson Jr. He was another guy. He was on tons and tons of stuff. I mean, for some reason, people only remember him as Boomer, really. But he was on a bunch of TV shows. He was in things like Knight Rider, Airwolf, Sunset Beach, Sister. He was on Quincy, The White Shadow, The Bastard. He was in a bunch of stuff. So just don't just think of him as Boomer. Just remember he had a bigger career than that and go find his stuff. Okay, let's keep it going. There's so many people. Okay, playing Colonel Tigh was Terry Carter. Terry Carter, again, he had another one of those guys that had been around for a while. He popped up in a couple like the blaxploitation movies like Foxy Brown. He was on McCloud. He was on TV shows like that. So he had a really good career, and he was still acting up until not too long ago. So Terry Carter, God bless him. I gotta keep rolling, man. There's too many people. Okay, playing Athena was Maren Jensen. Her career never really materialized in all that much. You know, she was a beautiful girl. I think she even popped up on like Battle of the Network Stars back in the day or something. But her career never went as far as you would have thought it being. She was on Battlestar Galactica. She was in Deadly Blessing. She was in cheeseball movies. Beyond the Reef was another one. She was in that. But her career never really panned out into anything major. Again, beautiful girl. She did a good job on the show, but her career ended in like the early 80s or something. Early 80s, mid 80s, who the hell knows? But she hasn't been around in a while. But, you know, wherever she is, peace. Okay, playing Cassiopeia was Lorette Spang. Great job on this show. She was on a bunch of TV shows. I think she was even one of those airport movies, like Airport 75 or something like that. But she was on a whole bunch of television shows. She was in stuff like Lou Grant, Man from Atlantis, Charlie's Angels, ISIS, Sunshine, Emergency, and by the way, I really have to take a look at one point, Man from Atlantis for all you guys, because that was really like a forgotten gem TV show. It was kind of like Aquaman, like whatever, but it's long since gone. But anyway, Lorette Spang, God bless, peace out, gotta go. Okay, playing Sheba was Lockhart. Now, she's still going. I mean, she's got a really long career. She was in stuff like Collateral Damage. She was in stuff like Eagle Eye. She's been around for a long time. Talented actress. Actually, they really brought her in to fill in after Jane Seymour took off from the show, because she was part of the cast and part of the beginning, and then all of a sudden she decided to split, and so there went Jane Seymour, there went Apollo's love interest, and wait a minute, I gotta cover Jane Seymour, holy shit. Okay, playing Serena was Jane Seymour. Now, I'm not even gonna get into Jane Seymour's career, because god damn it, you already know it. You know about the James Bond flicks, but you have to watch her in Sinbad and the Eye of the Tiger, which I will be covering, because that was one of the classic movies I loved from when I went to the drive-ins as a kid. Sinbad and the Eye of the Tiger, Jane Seymour, Battlestar Galactica, James Bond, the fucking Owen Wilson movie, where the hell that shit was. Whatever, it's Jane Seymour. You know who she is, goddammit. She's still hot, and she's like 5,000 years old. Let's get to the story. Okay, way out in space somewhere, there's these 12 colonies of man, and they all live together, and they all got strangely somewhat oddball biblical names, and they have been having this long, outstanding generational war with the Cylons, a bunch of robots that were at one point created by a bunch of, like, space reptile guys or whatever. And these robots and mankind have been fighting against each other forever, but now they're going to come to a peace, an armistice, brokered by the great Baltar himself. But it's a lie, and it's a trap, and as all the great battle stars are going out there kind of wagging their tails in the air, not defending themselves, the Cylons attack the 12 colonies, they kill everybody in sight, they wipe everybody out. Then most of the battle stars get destroyed, except for the Galactica, which at one point flies back to the main planets, rescues whatever survivors into this ragtag fleet of ships that looked they were thrown together from model parts from God knows what kind of model kits, and they all set off out into the sunset to try to get the hell out of Dodge, to find the mystical lost colony called Earth, and to avoid the Cylons trying to kill them at every beck and call. That's the premise of this movie. That's the premise of the TV show. That's the premise of the whole damn thing. Not much to go over, not much to cover past that. Let's get to why this shit rocked. Okay, let's keep it real. As a kid back in the 1970s, after Star Wars came out, you were so gacked up on space and anything to do with planets and laser guns and all that kind of shit, you didn't care. You were just ready. And Paramount at that time, they were making Star Trek the Motion Picture to appeal to the Star Trek crowd. The Motion Picture wasn't the best Star Trek ever, but Wrath of Khan was fucking awesome. But anyway, they also had this idea to make a TV show, and that was called Battlestar Galactica. Glen Larson put this thing together. It was amazing. For what you've seen in it for television was unbelievable at the time. The effects, the budget, I think it was like $7 million or something like that. What they put into this TV show was off the chart for 1978. I mean, it was ridiculous. It was actually, to recoup some of the cost of this thing, they actually released it as a motion picture in foreign countries. In Europe, in Japan, and all those places. It was actually a film. You'd go to the theaters to see this thing. But in America, it was a TV show. It was the pilot, and then it launched off into the TV show afterwards. The TV show really only lasted one season, which is kind of tragic. There's only so many episodes, depending on how you cut them up. There was only like 21 or 24, depending on how you break one story apart into 2 or 3 episodes, whatever. But it was awesome. It was legendary. The effects were great. As the series went on, even that first year, you've seen they were doing a lot of the same thing over and over again as far as like the effects, because they just couldn't keep making the new ones. A lot of the space battles was the same, like 12 cut scenes re-put together over and over and over again, and over and over and over again. Some of the episodes were truly great. Some were kind of hokey and stupid, really. But it was still enjoyable, and you still liked it, and you still had a great time. They had a bunch of guest stars pop on the show, but it didn't do enough to keep it going for the amount of money they were putting into this show. This show was expensive as hell. And plus it got caught up in the time zone wars, where it was going up against some other heavy hitter shows. Then they would move it here, and then they would move it there, and the audience would get confused, and it kind of just, it dwindled down a bit, and then they took it off the air because it was simply, even though it was still kind of respectable in the ratings, they took it off the air because it was simply too much money to produce, and they could make cheaper shit and get good ratings with it. So Battlestar Galactica, the first incarnation, the original run, only lasted 1 season, 1 year. But it was such a great run while it was there. The idea of the humanity reaching out to find its lost brothers and sisters on this planet Earth, this lost tribe, the biblical implications, which Battlestar Galactica, the reboot, took way, way, way farther and went way, way, way in deeper and did such an incredible job. I'll tell you now, the reboot of Battlestar Galactica, to me, is probably one of the top 3 television shows in the history of mankind. I thought that thing was incredible. Phenomenally written, directed, acted. I'll even get to covering that maybe someday. I don't know. Who knows? Who cares? But right now, we're looking at the launch point, the original Battlestar Galactica, which had a lot of those religious overtones, which had a lot of the colonies, and all these, like, Glen Larson was like a Mormon, and there was like a lot of the verbiage and the religion all mashed into Battlestar Galactica. I don't know if you guys have seen it. I don't know if you've watched the original Battlestar Galactica, but if you came into Battlestar Galactica because of the reboot, which again was amazing, and probably, let's face it, a superior product by far, you still have to go back and look at what launched it. You have to go back and see what started it. And for its time, it was incredible. It was enjoyable. The effects were top-notch. Everything about it was great. Yeah, there was a couple wingding episodes where you're like, oh, this is kind of stupid. What the hell are you doing? But the premise, the ideas, the thought, the production, and the acting was really just great stuff, especially for its time. Anyway, folks, my loving look back, as you can tell I'm amped up, back at 1978 to Battlestar Galactica. Ah, man, go out, watch it, Go buy. They got the DVDs out there and shit. Buy them, whatever. I don't care. Check out Battlestar Galactica. Everybody, God bless. Thank you. I've had so much fun making it to my 25th official episode, even with all the special editions thrown in. See you soon. Talk. Bye. Later.